Welcome to Marked Out Radio's 20th episode. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And, we decided to do kind of a holiday gift-giving guide episode this week, something a little bit different from what we've done in the past. But before we get into that, there was a con this weekend of sorts. I did not go. Dana did. So why don't you jump right in? What was it called, by the way? I keep forgetting.
The New York Blood and Ink Tattoo and Horror Convention. That's a lot of ands in one con title, but that was it.
And so where was that? Where was that located?
That was at the Westchester County Center in White Plains, New York.
So yeah, I was con season officially came to a close for me last weekend. So I'm not doing anything for the rest of the year. But you had one more, and honestly, looking at the lineup for that show, it didn't look too bad. What do you have to say about it?
It was for me. It was a good lineup. I spent a lot more money than I would have ever expected to spend at the Westchester County Center. Like I would have expected a real, like, you go there and get like complete nobodies, but there were a handful of people I needed. It was shockingly poorly attended. Apparently, con season, much like with you, it ended for a lot more people because there was like no one there. I was taking pictures of the crowd, and it was like shocking. Like Roger Jackson at Monster Mania had over an hour line. The first time I got him, we saw him in Rhode Island outdrawing Helen Hunt. He had a consistent line that entire time I was on the ice. He had nobody. We walked right up to his table. He was just sitting there. Marley Shelton was just sitting there. Absolutely no one at her table, just hanging out. It was extremely, extremely poorly attended. From what I was hearing, because I'm not in the whole tattoo convention scene. I don't know much about it. But from what different talent was telling us, and by us I mean Brian Sokol and I, it was run by Bam Margera from Jackass. Apparently the talent there were given downside guarantees, which we've gotten into a little bit, before. That means if they do zero business at the con, they are at least getting something.
That's wild because at shows of that size, talent usually don't receive a downside guarantee at all. So that's a pretty interesting and potentially disastrous business model.
Yeah. Again, complete grain of salt. It wouldn't be the first time talent has, kayfabed, for lack of a better word, and spun it some way that they want to spin it. But that's what we were told. But yeah, it was interesting. Just to run through a couple of things briefly. The Hocus Pocus cast was there, and you were never really a Hocus Pocus person, were you, Sean?
I mean, to be fair, I don't know. Age wise, it doesn't really line up with me. I'm a little bit too old for that, and also I don't know. It's whatever. No comment.
Yeah, I think age wise, you definitely missed the boat. I think I probably missed the boat gender wise a little bit, but I still like it. It's definitely more of a female driven franchise, I think. But Kathy Najimy, I finally got. I got her on the poster print. I got her on a Funko. Shockingly, of everyone I saw there was very little like forced. There was a lot of free quotes. I didn't pay for a single quote, but I got almost everyone except Roger Jackson didn't even have quotes on their sign as an extra cost. So that was cool. Thora Birch, first time. Did you get her that first time at Monster Mania?
I did. I got her at Monster Mania. I mean, it's funny because I remember when she first started doing cons, they hyped that con up at Monster Mania big time, and she had lines. And since then, she's done a bunch and has had no lines at all. So
yeah, she had no line. She had no line yesterday. Her sign, I thought she was going to charge for quotes because like her that agency she's with is typically pretty they monetize everything, but she didn't. So I quickly pulled some tape out of my crate, and I marked up a quote. And it was funny. The first time I met her, she was kind of weird, for lack of a better word, at Monster Mania. She seemed strange. But yesterday she was like super nice. Like, oh, I love that quote. Oh, I love the pen switches. It looks great. It was like, most people don't love the pen switches, but she did, or at least she said she did. Kathy Najimy was great. She, for some reason, gave me a signed 8x10 for free. It's like a thing she does. She said, "You're the first one I've given it to this weekend." It was like some weird like headshot, and she described that you're my favorite. I don't know why, but that was nice. So she was very nice. This was funny. Jason Marsden, who plays Binks on Hocus Pocus, among a lot of other things, he was plus 20 on quotes. I didn't bother to get one, but he did the actual sketch of the cat on the side window with 2 different pens. That was free. To me, a sketch should be more than a quote. I don't know how the quote's more money than the sketch, but I'll take it.
I mean, Lord knows the value of the product is going to just dramatically increase with the drawing of a cat on it. So,
oh yes, of course, it's now a premium item.
Yeah.
The other thing that was just amusing was most of these people, as I said, did no business. It was actually kind of sad to see. Very, very little business. But there was a booth with live animals. There was a sloth exhibit, which I actually had to resist the urge. I kind of wanted to do it, to hold the sloth, but I didn't.
That's a little bit disturbing because, like, sloths really, and I don't know, not wanting to go down the rabbit hole of like animal rights and stuff, but like sloths really are not meant to be in this kind of climate. It's way too cold for them, and it's really actually kind of disturbing that they're here.
But guess what? The sloth did better business than I think every celebrity not named Bam Margera. Bam had like a line of like 50. The sloth.
Did you get Bam?
I didn't. The sloth was doing consistent business. The sloth was really moving the people. So I mean, much like Dogpool from a few weeks ago, these animals are doing better than a lot of the humans, which is fascinating.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the highlight was a private signing with Miko Hughes from Pet Sematary, New Nightmare, Kindergarten Cop, which that was smooth. I will be adding, I have Funkos coming, the brand new Funko 1585, JSA authenticated. They will be hitting our Facebook Marketplace and our eBay Marketplace later today. That was nice and smooth. Other than that, really nothing to say. It was a good time.
Yeah, and will there be another one next year? Probably not, if they lost 6 figures on this show.
It's one of those shows. If they have another one and there's absolutely anyone I even remotely want, I'll be there. It was an easy drive. It was easy. Walk right in the building. It was super easy. But I can't see how it makes sense for anyone financially.
Were there a lot of tattoo artists there doing tattoos at the show?
They had that one, like there was like the far row of the vendors. You had people doing tattoos, and I don't entirely know. Like most of the vendors that were doing tattoos had someone in the seat receiving a tattoo. At that point, I walked by. I don't know if that's like, should there have been a line of people that I didn't see? Do they have some system where they call you when it's your turn? I don't know. So
I think they do those mostly by appointment. Yeah. So
I don't know how well it did, but it did well. And there was one guy that was like a Virgil, David Harris, which I just realized now all the great carnies are all dead now. So I almost feel bad using them as examples, but I will keep doing it. But he was pulling a tattoo Virgil where he was shouting at some woman to come get a tattoo from him. He's like, "You still have one free arm. Come back around and I'll show you what I can do," or something. It was just kind of funny. But yeah, it seemed you touched on this with the Monster Mania Oaks. I'm not a tattoo guy. I'm not. I thought when I got married, maybe I would feel inclined to get like the tattooed ring instead of having to wear one, but I don't mind wearing one. So I don't know. Maybe fatherhood will inspire me to get some name or birthday tattooed somewhere. Who knows? But now,
I'm just wondering financially at a show like this, if the vendors can sustain it, where the guests don't even matter, and if those tattoo booths were fully booked all day, and I know they pay a decent rental spot for the event, it may be a situation where the guests were just gravy and the show can go on that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's who knows what the finances of these shows are like. So it is interesting to have a whole celebrity row basically, and that's not the draw. The draw is in fact the other stuff. So it's different from what we usually see, I guess, at these kind of shows.
Oh yeah, the vendors the space was packed, and like you said, I'm sure the tattoo vendors are paying a bigger premium. So perhaps this is like the third year they've done it, and they've had celebrities before. So I would have to imagine this is kind of the norm. The thing is, though, I mean, if you're paying downside guarantees, that's money going out. Which granted, maybe the vendors were enough; they covered the building. and the downsides from the vendors. Who the hell knows? But yeah, we'll see.
All right, so that's the Blood and Ink Con. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. So we decided to do something kind of different for this episode. We are leading into the holiday season. There's no other way to say it. This is November. And so we thought about doing a kind of a holiday autographed gift giving guide because I don't know about you, Dana, but I know that because people know that I'm in this hobby, some people have tried to give me autographed items as gifts, and other people I've also given autographs as gifts to other people. And I know that, there is a certain amount of trepidation when trying to give a gift of any kind, especially in a domain that you're not really comfortable with or you're not an expert in. It's one thing if you're buying just crap off Amazon for somebody, shirts or whatever. But if you're trying to buy something that's kind of a hobby thing that's a little bit requires a little bit of specific knowledge, it can be a little bit of a daunting task, a little bit of an intimidating task to buy someone a gift from this hobby for this season. So we've been around a really long time. By the way, before we even start, has anyone tried to get you an autographed gift at any point in your life?
Trying to think. I don't think so. I think honestly the closest it would be someone giving me cash with the intention of like, buy X, Y, and Z that you've wanted to buy. I don't think anyone's ever taken that plunge on their own. That's
funny because I have received autographs in the past. My aunt, I showed you, my aunt had bought me that Hulk Hogan signed T-shirt, but she had bought it from QVC, so QVC sells good stuff, so it's not a big deal. And I think I've experienced other circumstances where other people I know were trying to get gifts for other people, and they were like, "Oh, I was thinking about buying this autograph," and I had to kind of gently steer them away from buying something that was either low quality or a fake or some other nonsense. And so that's it's tricky. It's tricky because this is a minefield, and this hobby's a minefield. And if you're not careful, you will buy garbage very, very quickly. So I kind of broke this down into different categories to discuss. And then so I guess we'll talk about, what to buy this holiday season. And so if you know someone you're a loved one, a friend, whoever, your secret Santa, I don't know, might be interested in an autograph, what are the things to stay? What are the things to buy them that are safe, as opposed to taking the plunge on eBay? So, Alan, if you were buying an autograph for someone, what are some of the things that you might buy, given that you know it would be safe for them?
Well, I mean, if you want to eliminate any of that potential for just making a terrible mistake, I think if the person's a wrestling or sports fan, it's always safe to focus on like a fanatics.com, somewhere like that. You may be paying a little bit more, but everything they have is good. It's going to be of a high quality. It's going to be authentic. It's going to come with a certificate of authenticity that is going to be respected and, acknowledged anywhere.
So for sports, like a Fanatics or a WWE.com or a UpperDeck.com or Steiner Sports or whatever, these first party companies that do tons of signings on their own, they're probably the safest places to buy.
I mean, besides Marked Out Collectibles, of course, but yeah,
naturally.
Those would be, those are the institutions. That's like it's like buying from Target versus buying from some sort of a flea market vendor.
We've also talked a lot about, we've actually in the past couple of weeks talked a lot about books and CDs that have been auto-penned or forged. But truthfully, books and CDs are probably the cheapest and easiest and most reliable, like statistically speaking, most reliable things to buy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're not looking to spend a fortune, a book or a CD is the way to go. And just not to go off on a tangent, but I went crazy on the podcast last week, and I'm like, I don't gamble. These CDs and vinyls, it's too risky now. And hours after we stopped recording, they announced the Ice Cube album. Now there's signed vinyls. And I still haven't pulled the trigger, but I'm like toiling in just agony about this. Because a $40 signed vinyl of Ice Cube would be awesome. I would buy several, but I don't know. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know if it's going to be some stupid insert, which is probably more likely than even it being fake, is that it'll be some insert. But yeah, I'm still on the fence about that.
So, if you're shopping for a teen girl, honestly, the signed Taylor CDs are an easy get. There's a ton of them out there. You can still get some of the less popular albums for under $100. And they're all guaranteed authentic because they're sealed with the signature in them. You don't have to worry about that. There's also a ton out there of the signed Olivia Rodrigo CDs that dropped last year. Olivia Rodrigo is still pretty popular. There's a ton of hers out there on the secondary market. Again, for a teen girl, those are easy. Boys are a little bit different because not now we're doing like gender stereotypes here, but boys, you start delving into the sports stuff. Sports stuff can be had cheaper, but I think you're running the risk of fakes. I don't care how. I don't think people can appreciate there are fakes of the lowest level names out there. Then there's really very few ways to avoid it, but there are definitely some strategies that you can employ to avoid getting trapped in a fake. So the first, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but I promise there's a logic to it. So, and Dana, we're going to say the answer and people are going to be almost surprised by it, but what would you say is the most trustworthy place to buy an autograph? What platform?
As a buyer, I would say the place I feel the most comfortable is eBay.
It has to be, which is crazy because eBay is filled with fakes, right? It's absolutely filled with fakes, but eBay does have money back guarantees. You can return anything on eBay if you discover that it's not real down the line, or if you decide you don't like it down the line. eBay offers that flexibility. What a lot of times what will happen is people find things on Mercari or Facebook Marketplace, and they seem like a really good deal. But as a general rule, you have to be infinitely more careful on a Facebook Marketplace or on a Mercari or on a whatnot than on an eBay, because on those platforms, there's really no protection for you. And I'm not here to say you can't find deals on Mercari or on Facebook Marketplace. I've personally found amazing deals on Marketplace or Mercari or whatnot or whatever. I've personally purchased them, but eBay is safer. But there are some caveats. So actually, you just added this to the show notes, and I think it's really important to talk about. So on eBay, feedback does not tell the whole story. Can you please explain what you mean by that you have to be careful trusting people with 100% feedback?
Yeah, the feedback can be cultivated in a sense. There are, and I don't want to give any companies any sort of exposure here, but there are companies out there that are just notorious forgers. They've been this way for years. And they will normally have the absolute worst companies will have in large cases the best feedback. And the why of that is a little bit multifaceted. First of all, they are able to sell things extremely undervalued because they're fake. So they sell a whole lot more than retailers with real stuff do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. More sales equal more feedback. Second part of that, you'd say, well, there's a money back guarantee. Wouldn't people leave negative feedback? But the answer to that is no. Or if they do, you can usually contact eBay and be like, well, I gave them a full refund. I accepted the return. You can normally get those negative feedbacks like redacted from your account. So I know this holiday season is going to be a lot of people, and I can't even say that they're like, stupid, naive, whatever. If you're on eBay and you're not in this hobby and you see someone that's got thousands of feedbacks with 100% positive, that to me would be an obvious sign that that you've found the right place, but you haven't.
Right, and it's really important to understand. Like for us, for a small business like us, negative returns. A return actually hurts us, right? Because we operate on very specific margins, right? We pay a certain amount for the items, and for whatever autographs we have to pay the talent, there's that money is factored in, and so we price it so that we have a certain margin of profit. So anytime we have returns, that obviously cuts into that margin of profit. Someone who's selling all fakes, they don't have any margins to worry about because their product isn't worth anything. So when they can accept returns all day long because the base value of their product is more or less zero. Yeah, maybe they paid a little bit to get prints made or maybe whatever, but by and large, their outlay of cash to sell fakes is significantly cheaper than to sell real stuff. So you'll see the companies that are selling fakes, they're much quicker to offer refunds. They'll say, keep it, and I'll just refund you. That's how you know that someone is selling fakes. Keep it and I'll refund you is an easy one, right? Because it makes the customer happy. They'll leave a positive feedback. Oh, they were so nice, whatever. And the issue is the item is not real. And so I think your warning is actually an interesting one. If you see an autograph vendor with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of all positive feedbacks, I'm not saying that's guaranteed that they're selling bad stuff, but you should actually treat them with more caution, not less.
Which, even saying that back, like hearing you say it, hearing myself say it sounds ridiculous. It really does. If I was a listener right now that didn't know, that just found this shuffling through the podcast app, I'd be thinking now, so what do I do? Do I look for the one with negative feedback? Is that better? And no, you want positive feedback. You want a good reputation. But you sort of have to have a feel for things. If someone's selling Undertakers for $115 or $90 or something that's just not happening, or they have too much of something, or you'll see the same like Randy Orton trunks that they had up there and they've sold 7 times.
Shade.
You have to be able to decipher. And also a little bit more shade. Proof photos don't tell the whole story, and that's coming from a business. I love proof photos. Almost every listing we have has proof photos, but you will see people with proof photos, and you could have a guy signing 1 8x10 that's genuine, and then you go and make 100 more copies, and then the other 100 are fake. Proof photos don't tell the whole story.
No, they don't. And I think one of the look, I'm going to be honest. As a buyer, negative feedback doesn't scare me off. What I do is if I see someone has some negatives, I read the comments. And if I see that someone has negatives from an insane buyer, and it's pretty easy to tell from the comments whether someone is an insane buyer, I'll assume, if anything, that the seller is more credible if they have negative feedback from an insane buyer. But also, I think it's really important. A great strategy on eBay is to click that button, see sellers' other items. And when you see what they're selling, if they have loads and loads and loads and loads of the same thing, or go to the seller's history of what they've sold. If they've sold a bunch of what you perceive as a rare item, and they've sold a bunch of the same one, that doesn't make any sense. Look, if you're buying generic 8x10s, sure, those can be infinitely mass produced and in some cases infinitely signed, depending on who the talent is. That's one thing. But if you're trying to buy a pretty rare item, an autographed guitar or an autographed microphone, or some kind of original costume or outfit or something like that, or a unique and valuable Funko Pop or other kind of toy or something, where you're paying a premium price and you've seen that seller has sold a bunch of them before, hit the pause button. Something isn't right. Also, if you notice that a seller suddenly has a large stock of someone who has died, that should be not necessarily, it's not necessarily dispositive. You don't have to, for example, if you're looking for Tony Todd this season and someone has tremendous stock of Tony Todd signed an absolute ton of stuff, okay? And he also just passed. So it's actually pretty expected for people to start posting large amounts of Tony Todd stuff this holiday season. But if you're looking for someone a good example. So if you're a One Direction fan, or you're buying for a One Direction fan, full signed One Direction stuff is already scarce. Okay. And so Liam Payne just passed away a few weeks ago. If you find One Direction items signed by the full band for, let's say, under $1,000, there's almost 100% certainty that it's not real.
Yeah.
And that's what it's generally the mantra. If it seems too good to be true, it almost certainly is. It really applies extra in this hobby because one of the things that this hobby is all about is market correction. The market is very, very, very good at correcting prices, and so it is very, 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 very hard to get a steal in this hobby. It's very hard to buy something where oh man, I got that for a song. I got that for way cheaper than it's worth. Does it happen sometimes? Sure. I think Dana, you and I can speak to a handful of times when we've purchased something for way less than it's worth. But it's very, very rare. It's very rare.
And even more rare now. Like,
right.
Right at the start of COVID, hell, 10 years before COVID, 5 years before COVID, you could find things for a song on a daily basis. But now, with the way it is, and you have all these Facebook vendors and other people looking for things to flip, anything that's that cheap is going to go. And if it doesn't go, there might be a reason why it's sitting there, why they have 50 of them.
Right. And so it's really, really important. Check to see what the person is selling. And then, there are other things, other factors that you can, and it's so many little things that you can look at that tell a story. So I'm going to skip around this list a little bit. Why don't you talk about the pen that's being used and how the pen can often tell a buyer whether something is real or not? Again, none of these are 100% certainty, which is why you have to combine all of the factors when making a decision. So first thing is the item too good to be true? The second is look at the pen being used and make a decision based on that. So what's your experience with pens? And I'll talk about mine, and then we can, come to some consensus on pens.
Well, a lot of it ties into the idea of where was this item signed. Let's say you are trying to buy a Scarface Tony Montana Funko signed by Al Pacino. If it wasn't one from one of the sit-down signings, and those, those are, I think, in most cases authenticated. Most of these, I think
actually 100% of those have witness authentication. So
okay, I thought so. So if you see an unauthenticated Tony Montana Funko signed in paint, probably not real. Because if you've seen where when Al's on the street, he's not doing pen switches.
No.
You probably wouldn't trust him running with a paint pen and the way he goes because he's a madman. That goes for a lot of people. If you see Ryan Reynolds, like when you see the big name A-listers that don't do signings, when you see the stuff on the market that's legit, you almost want to look for the dead black Sharpie or the streaky silver Sharpie. If it looks too perfect, if it looks too, if there's other signatures on it, it looks too uniformed, that's a bad sign. Things, even, you and I do cast sign pieces in paid settings. It's rare that they stay looking perfect. Forget it on the street with an A-lister and a swarm and a mob of people.
Right. So if you see a cast signed piece and everything has the autograph perfectly placed and the pens are the exact right kind of pen you would want to use in that scenario, there is a near 100% chance that item is not real.
Yeah,
and it sucks to say that because what it basically means is it's really, really hard to find pieces that are 100% exactly how you would want them. But that's just the reality of the game, and that's why when you find authentic pieces that are multi-signed, whether it's from a band or whether it's from a movie cast or something like that, there's a tremendous, tremendous premium for that, and that's really, really important. So, a lot you're going to find if you look for a cast signed piece, for example, you'll see a lot of the Marvel movies or the Disney movies have this where they keep these fakers. They created these fake Marvel authentication stickers. They have the whole cast on there, and they claim that it was given out as a promotional item at a premiere or something like that. Just so you know, 100% of those items are forged. There's not a single one that's real.
Yeah.
You have to just know that getting cast signed pieces is difficult. It's very, very expensive, and the number of when you start getting more difficult cast members on a piece, it increases the value dramatically. So I'll give you a pretty good example just from my own. Recently, we talked about it, right? So I bought a signed Spider-Man No Way Home poster from Tom Holland's charity. That came with a signature from Tom Holland that was perfect. Sit down, perfect quality, right? Then I went to get Andrew Garfield, and Andrew Garfield's street signature kind of bad, but still pretty decent. Then I went and got Marissa Tomei's street signature, which was just a hopeless squiggle. And so you could see, even though it's a cool piece, it's very clearly not going to have perfect pen, perfect placement, perfect signatures. And I'm guaranteeing they're real. I was there. Dana was there. And yet, you don't get exactly what you want. Tom Holland signed in silver, Andrew Garfield and Marissa Tomei signed in blue because that's what they were willing to sign with at the time.
Yep. And interestingly enough, I did see in a Facebook group, which has a lot of savvy buyers and reputable sellers, there apparently was. So they actually posted like a screenshot from when they did it. There was something, I think it was through AMC, where they did like a contest where you actually were able to get. There were a couple of like signed posters that went out to winners. But I mean, those are extremely scarce. The majority of the movies don't really have that as an opportunity, as a contest. But I mean, there may be a couple out there if you're buying from a reputable person in a reputable community with checks and balances like that Facebook group, where there will be some that are like contests and like winners receive them. But on eBay, by and large, when you see that premiere thing, that is totally fake, like you said.
And honestly, I think those are such an exception to the rule that I would almost discount them out of hand if I were buying a gift, because you're not going to encounter them with the frequency enough to have that be part of your calculation for buying stuff. So yeah, the moral is there: be careful, pay attention to the inventory of the person who is selling. As a general rule, look at the history behind. If this is a street grapher, if it's someone who claims to be a street grapher, look at their items. Street graphs look different from table graphs. They just do. They're faster. The pens are more erratic. There's larger variety of quality of them. Go through and look at their history. Go look at what's sold. If they're not selling a heck of a lot, make a decision accordingly. As far as what's hot and what's not this season, so the truth of it is, we all know what people want this season. Like right now, the thing that I see on all the Facebook groups is the cast sign stuff from Wicked. Have you seen them pop up over the past couple days?
Yeah.
So I mean, Wicked is red hot. So just be aware that if you want something that is hot from this season. So the premiere of Wicked, there was one in New York and one in London, I think, this week and last week, and so there is stuff floating around with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo and all them. If you want that, you cannot get that for cheap. It's not possible. So maybe you'll find a single headshot from a Cynthia Erivo or Ariana Grande for under $200 or around the $200 price point. If you're finding anything multi-sign for less than that, it's 100% fake. 100%.
Yep.
The cast sign stuff it scales significantly higher. And right now, there's actually a decent glut of it on the market because they were signing machines apparently the past few weeks. So if you want something that's multicast signed, you're looking at $400 to $500 and up. And so again, if anyone is offering it to you for less, it's fake. Because why would they offer for less? They're selling consistently for $400 to $500 real. Single headshots. I saw a bunch of Cynthia Erivo's of varying qualities for $150 a piece on Facebook. They're all real. But again, that's the baseline. So if you're looking, you say, oh, $50. What else is red hot? Romeo and Juliet on Broadway. Those two. So that's Kit Connor and what's the girl's name?
I'm blanking on it.
She was from West Side Story. Oh, geez, let me search. Rachel something.
Rachel Zegler?
Yes. Rachel Zegler, yeah. Either of those two, their stuff is red hot right now, both of them, again, because it's a big thing right now. So, Rachel Zegler, Kit Connor, you're looking at $150, $200 a piece, just baseline before you even get started. What else is hot right now? What are the hot properties? Like something like a Stranger Things, which had been hot for the past couple of years, has cooled off a little bit. So you should be able to get, if you have a big Stranger Things fan, some of the stuff you can actually get on the downswing price wise. Marvel stuff is always hot. Star Wars stuff is always hot. Anything else that you noticed is moving this season?
Trying to think.
Sports wise, who are your movers and shakers this season?
I mean, I guess if there's anything out there with the Dodgers, who just won the World Series, that would be big. But I don't think Ohtani's done very much.
There's some Ohtani stuff out there. It's very expensive. What was I gonna say? What else sports wise? I was on the tip of my tongue and I lost it. I just completely lost it. Anything Tom Brady is tricky. Tom Brady stuff still commanding a significant premium. There's also an absolute ton of fakes out there. If you're in New York, the big New York people, who you should be able to get for a reasonable price, the Jeters, the Riveras, there's so many fakes out there that you really have to be careful who you're buying from and what you're buying. It's crazy because Jeter has signed so many balls and he continues to sign so many balls, and yet there is not a day that goes by that I don't find a fake Jeter or two pop across my feed on Facebook. So,
oh yeah, Jeter's one of the most. He's one of the most popular ones to fake.
Yeah, because they have that loopy autograph. I mean, look, we're coming off fresh off the election. There's an absolute ton of fake Trump and fake Harris stuff out there. As a general rule, most of the Trump books that people buy are auto pens. Almost all of them, actually, are auto pens. There's a very, very, very tiny percentage of the older books that are authentic. You're not paying less than $500 for a real Trump right now. So if you think you're getting a bargain, you're not. It's fake. Harris, the same. Her stuff is pretty scarce. And it commands a pretty significant premium. I would, again, it's not the kind of thing you can get for a bargain. Be careful out there.
And I know this episode's about buying things, but I would also recommend, just as someone who's pretty aware of how the market ebbs and flows, I would never recommend buying a presidential candidate like right after they win. I think that's probably the absolute peak. Granted, at this point now, Trump is a two-time, a two-term president. So I think his stuff is always going to maintain a value. But like right now, everyone's at a fever pitch. This would be like the absolute worst time to buy anything.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things where if you chill out a little bit, the prices will come down.
Yep.
On that. But for this holiday season, you could imagine with Trump stuff, the fakes will be flying all over the place. They just will be. And so you got to be really careful. Another thing that I've seen a lot is, I don't know if you've seen any of these, people take authentic signed CD covers or prints and they like cut them into the shape of a guitar pick guard. They paste them to the pick guard and they sell the guitar as a custom signed guitar. Have you seen this?
I have.
So they do is like I saw one at a show the other day, and they took it was a signed Taylor Swift CD, which is probably worth $100, and they cut it out and they pasted it to a pick guard and they reassembled this cheap garbage guitar that's worth maybe $40. It looked terrible, and they were selling it for $400. You see these all over eBay. They're so super common. You're getting ripped off if you buy that. So just beware that you'll see these signed guitars. Guitars that are signed on the body command a significant premium than guitars signed on the pick guard. Just so you're aware, pick guards. I mean, if you're a guitar player, you know this. Pick guards can be unscrewed and taken around. And so you'll have people go to musicians on the street and get them to sign pick guards. Then they screw them onto cheap guitars and they sell them as signed guitars. There is a big difference between a signed pick guard and a signed guitar, price-wise. So look, there's nothing wrong with a signed pick guard, but understand that a signed pick guard is worth about 20 to 30% of a signed guitar. If you have a signed guitar on the body, those are much more valuable, those are much more rare, and so price them out accordingly.
Don't pay guitar prices for a pick guard. Just be aware that is a different product altogether.
Also be aware when you're buying signed figures or Funko Pops that window swapping is a really common thing. For a Funko Pop especially, what you'll notice is that you can go on eBay and buy blank Funko Pop windows, just They're like 30 cents a piece. And you'll see the graphers on the street, and they'll go get them signed on the street, and then they just the windows, and then they'll take a Funko off the shelf, pop its window out, and swap in the signed one. It's very, 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 very common happening right now. Those are worth less. There's a whole debate on the Funko groups about this, but those are worth less objectively than a Funko that was taken and not altered. So if you're buying a signed Funko, beware of you'll see some listings just put WS in the listings, and they expect people to know that means window swap. Be aware. Ask if you see a very, very rare name that didn't have a Funko and they got it put in there or whatever. Ask if it's a window swap, because window swaps are worth less, and you don't want to be paying premium prices for something that turns out to be a window swap. That's just it's something to be aware of. That's true of a lot of different action figure lines as well. Anything that you can pop the window off of without damaging the product too much, people are always trying to do. I'm not saying not to buy window swaps. You can absolutely buy them. Just beware, they're worth less. So if anything, a budget conscious option if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, as far as price haggling and price negotiation, obviously we want to make sure that everyone gets the best price, but at the same time, we've said it before and we'll say it again. If you spend too little, you're not going to get something real. And so the goal is to spend as little as you can on something that is real. So, I mean, when you're negotiating a price on something, how do you do it?
Well, first of all, just as like a cautionary tale, you don't ever want to be the person. We have a product up on our eBay store from an unsigned talent. Our asking price is extremely fair. And someone messaged us with an offer the other day and they said, "Will you take $10?" Now, for people that don't do the whole selling thing and they don't understand how this works, if you take a $10 sale on eBay, take the fees out of that $10 sale, pay the shipping to ship that $10 product, and all these different costs associated.
The packaging material, the top loaders, all that stuff.
We would lose money. And like that person negotiating a price, I literally responded with 2 letters. And not the 2 letters I would have liked to have given, because I pride myself on having good customer service. So I said NO, and that was it. But so you don't want to be that buyer. I mean, you could be any buyer you want, but I wouldn't recommend being that buyer. When I'm trying to get a price that's reasonable, what I'll normally do, I'll check the seller's sold listings. Are they someone who typically accepts best offers? Are they not? If they're not, and it's something you need in a timely manner, it's something that you know is rare, the price is pretty good, you think someone else might buy it, I wouldn't really waste your time on it. At least that's me. You may have a different opinion. I will, if I don't see someone accepting best offers, I typically won't waste my time sending one. If I see they accept them, I don't know, I'll do maybe 20% off, 15% off as a starting point. And I hope and assume they will counter, and then we could find some common ground if they don't just accept it outright. How about you? What's your philosophy?
Well, my first point of negotiation is shipping, right? So, if I notice that, I mean, we offer free shipping on most of our stuff, not all of it, but I notice a lot of people charge for shipping. So if I can get the sense that if I can buy more than one thing from a person and get them to combine shipping, that's usually enough of a discount that I'm okay with doing that, So if we can, that's something like my primary thing. I can buy 2 or 3 items from someone and then combine shipping and make it all worth everyone's while. But again,
and here's the secret. Here's another. Not to hijack what you're saying, but here's another secret. Even if the person isn't, even if the seller is not charging shipping, like us, for example, we are free shipping. But obviously, free shipping is only free to the buyer. We're still paying shipping. So like when we do the math on our margins and on our price, we're factoring in, we're spending X amount of dollars for shipping and packing materials and all that. So if someone comes to us with free shipping and they want to buy 3 items, 4 items, 2 items, 10 items, whatever, we can then, there's a little bit of wiggle room you can do because you are saving money. Each item you sell in a combined sale, you're not paying those shipping costs. Right. So there's always wiggle room on the combined shipping, whether they're charging for it or not.
Definitely true. And we've done it before where we're able to offer better prices when someone buys more than one thing. And so a lot of times I'll do that. I'll say, if I buy X, Y, and Z, I also, truth be told, there are some times when I have a price in mind that's my ceiling on an item. I think an item is worth X. I want it. I think it's a fair offer, and I'll just make the offer for that amount. I think some people, and I've had offers, truthfully, I've had offers where I offered 50% off that were accepted, and I've had offers where I offered 5% off that were declined. So it really depends on market value for a particular item. And I generally, before I buy something, I am very, very, very well versed in what the market value of that item is. I just am, and I make sure of that. And I think that's the most important advice that we can give to you, is to understand what the market value is. And one of the ways that you do that is by finding high quality examples of sold versions of what you're looking for. And by high quality of examples, we mean, if you're looking for an 8x10, find an 8x10 that is very clear, with a nice clear pen that really stands out. You want to find something that already has third-party authentication. So we haven't talked about TPA yet. We talked about it in a previous episode. But when buying on the secondary market, especially as a gift, whereas I think this is true, Dana, you and I are comfortable buying non-TPA certified stuff for ourselves, for our own personal collection. For a gift, I would not buy something that wasn't TPA certified, because I understand that for a person who is a novice or a neophyte, someone who's not too well versed in the hobby, if they want to sell it one day, they're going to need authentication on the item.
Yeah, it's not really the only exception. When you asked about giving and receiving autographs for presents, I actually just remembered one right now that you said. When we did our signing with Tom Kenny, I did one for my wife and I, our cousin / nephew, however you want to refer to it. I did a whole piece that Tom did a great inscription for the little guy for Christmas. That we didn't get that authenticated, because it's personalized. I have pictures and video of him signing it.
But yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
If you're buying a collector piece,
yeah. If you're buying a collector piece, absolutely, you need the sticker, because the average person, it just gives them the peace of mind. You don't want them to be like, oh, well, trust me, it's real. I know my stuff. It's like you want them to know that it's real.
And truthfully, TPA is going to get you the highest price online. So as a good way of gauging what is the ceiling you should be paying for something, look at something that has been sold with a great pen color, with a great placement, a great image, or a great item that also has a legitimate TPA. Now, what we mean by a legitimate TPA, we mean PSA, JSA, Beckett, or ACOA. That's it. Those are the four. You'll see other ones out there there are plenty of other ones, and plenty of other ones on eBay that are designed to look like the big four. Their little certificates look very similar, or maybe they have similar names. Right now there's a big one if you see anything that's authenticated by In-Person Collectibles or In-Person Authentics, they're all fake. 100% all fake. There's another one. There's one that's ACOA is autograph. It's I forget what it's called, but there's another one that's like autograph authentication. It's AA instead of ACOA, and it's meant to look like ACOA. They're all fake. There's a JSA ripoff one too. I can't remember what it's called. They're all fake. If you find something by Global 95% are fake, because Global went from being a real authenticator to a fake one years ago. And so maybe like early Global stuff might be real, but later Global stuff is all fake. So it's one of those things where if you see Global, just stay away. Obviously, there are first-party authenticators like Fanatics or Upper Deck, but those really aren't authenticators. Those are giving certificates of authenticity for products that were signed in their presence. That's something a little bit different. But I would
put High Spots. I would put High Spots in that category as well, where their sticker, they're not authenticating stuff you mail to them, but when they put the sticker on their own product, you can, rest pretty comfortably that the High Spot sticker is a good one.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about for value, not even for buying something authentic. In other words, when you're trying to figure out what the price you want to pay is, find something that has all of these attributes that's already been sold, and work from there as your price. So again, if you think, oh, I'm going to find a wicked cast piece that's not authenticated for less, maybe you might, but start with go on eBay, find a sold wicked cast piece with JSA that looks nice, that has all the autographs in the right spot with the right colors, and you say that okay, so then your ceiling is going to be whatever that is, $1,000 or $900, whatever it is, and then work backwards from there. So maybe you'll find one where the pens aren't as nice. Maybe you'll find ones where it's missing a person, or that it's not authenticated, or whatever it is, and you work backwards from there on price. That's kind of the strategy. Find where the cap is and go from there. And if you find anything that is way off from what the sold ones are, then there's a very good chance that it's fake.
Yeah. And also, ideally, holiday season, you're kind of under the time crunch, but you want to be flexible. If you as flexible as you can, you lose, and that's why when someone dies, the value and the sellers can make so much money because you have lost. As a buyer, you've lost that ability to be choosy and be selective, or at least that's the perception. You need this, and it's hot, or it's the holidays, and it's going to sell quick. I got to buy it. And then all of a sudden, you are overpaying. And I think we've all overpaid at times. But at least know you're overpaying and be aware that entering into the process with that kind of a mindset where you need this item and it can't be anything else, you are probably going to overpay. You just want to make sure you don't overpay too much. But ideally, you can kind of say, "Oh, well, I don't need it to be this," and find something that's
the difference. Right, there's a difference between saying I need this singer on this particular album, or I need this actor on this particular 8x10 or image or whatever, as opposed to this singer or this artist on any item.
Yeah,
right.
That's if you with the Eminem album. You have that very specific vinyl of Eminem you want, and you've passed on a lot of pretty decent prices on other albums because you want that album.
Correct. And so that's how it goes. If you want to get someone on the cheap, buy an index card signed. There are graphers, street graphers who go out there and they just get index cards signed all day and they sell them cheap. You're more likely to find a real inexpensive index card than anything else. And then what you could do is you could have that index card made into a display. The truth of it is you get what you pay for. Right? If you're okay with an inexpensive, looking item that you could gussy it up any way you want and make it into a nice display, buy an index card, buy a menu from a restaurant, buy a napkin that has been signed, and then turn that into a display. If you want a piece that is already nice, that is signed, there is a significant premium to that. Because think about it. If you're a grapher, you have to carry this stuff around and keep it nice. It is much easier to carry an index card and keep it nice than it is to carry a poster and keep it nice, or to carry a giant Mandalorian helmet or whatever. There's a lot more that can go wrong with expensive pieces. They can break,
sure.
You can drop them, they can get pens smeared. Look, if a pen smears on an index card that looks like garbage, sell it for $5 or throw it out. No one's gonna be upset. If a pen smears on an original movie poster that cost you $500, it's devastating. And so there's a lot more of a risk with getting expensive items done.
Yeah, absolutely right.
So you gotta be careful. It's about understanding if you want a premium item, you gotta pay more for it. And so don't if you find premium items. I know we've made jokes about premium items in the past, but if you find premium items, full-size movie posters, props, Funko Pops, just toys in general, or the larger items that are cumbersome, and you find them signed and they're cheap, that is a red flag. Because those items, all of them across the board, they command premiums. It's like baseballs that are not signed on the sweet spot versus baseballs that are signed on the sweet spot. There's all kinds of scenarios that are going to cause values to fluctuate. One of the things, if you want to decide that you're going to shop for a particular item or a particular autograph, figure out who that person is and figure out what's out there of them that is valuable and what's out there of them that's inexpensive. Look, the best example we can give is Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? So if you want to get an original theatrical poster of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're looking at $1,000 because they're not that common. However, if you don't care what kind of Arnold that you get, you can find his book. What can you get his book for? $75, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm still holding my stack. I think that's way too low.
So you can get a book for $75 right now. A poster's $1,000. That's the difference. So you can't say, "Oh, what's the price I should pay for an Arnold?" It's really, really, really item dependent. You know, if you want, if you want Eminem is a good example. Eminem's website always sells these various prints and things signed. You can find all day long a print of Kamikaze or something like that for $500 or $600. If you want an Eminem signed Marshall Mathers LP vinyl, it's going to be $2,500 because they're just not as common. They're just not available.
Exactly.
And so it's really, really important for you when figure out who you want to buy, what celebrity you want to buy, and see what of theirs is out there that can be had on the cheap. Did they release a book? And look, and that's if you want to buy cheap. You might want to buy premium. In that case, having a JSA letter with a premium item is not a bad idea. I wouldn't buy. I'm going to be honest. I am pretty good with Eminem autographs. I wouldn't buy a Marshall Mathers LP vinyl without a JSA letter.
When you're that kind of a price, you're spending $2,000. You absolutely have to. Even as good as your eye might be, that's not finding some $50 Randy Savage that was mislabeled on eBay and no one else saw it and you got to steal. That is a major purchase. That is an investment piece, whether you would sell it or not. You need to make sure you are covered.
Correct. And that's a really important thing. So, I mean, you'll notice that the running theme throughout this whole conversation has been research and awareness. You have to do a little bit of homework.
Yeah. And I just want to make one point on this. We typically don't do anything close to endorsements because endorsements are dangerous. But I think this episode that we're talking about, where do you buy from, all this stuff, how do you not get ripped off? I think we have to mention the website racktrusted.com, RACCTRUSTED.com. That is a curated list of trustworthy sellers. We are on it. Obviously, a lot of other people are on it. And if you're looking to buy any of these things, premium or on the cheap and anywhere in between, that is a decent. That's not a decent. That is the place to start, I think.
It's pretty much the standard, and it's the concept behind Rack is that it's people who are in the hobby and dealers who keep each other honest. That's really what it is. It's a reputation kind of curator, and the people who are there. That's a lot of times. That for example, one of that my examples for the Cynthia Erive stuff come from a post I saw on Rack this morning, where someone got her yesterday and was just dumping their 8x10s on Facebook today. None of them have authentication, but the seller is so well known for doing graphing in New York that people know, and other people from the group saw him there, and so there's no question that the stuff is real. You'll pay a little bit less buying from him that you would buying on eBay with TPA. That's how it goes. But I mean, joining the Rack Facebook group or going to racktrusted.com is a way to get a guarantee that the stuff you're buying is real. Now, unfortunately, with a group like that, its scope is limited in that a lot of the stuff is from people who are alive or who are out there now. Buying for someone from someone who's dead is a little bit trickier. No street graphers are getting dead people anymore, and so you gotta. That's where the homework comes in. And I agree with you. That I'm willing to throw my full endorsement behind Rack and racktrusted.com because, I mean, I've bought from tons of Rack sellers. I remember kind of a funny story. A few years back, this was before COVID, I bought a signed Blink-182 Funko Pops. I paid $75 each for a Travis Barker and a Mark Hoppus, and those go for like $500 a piece now. There are so many fakes around because they're so impossible to find real. And I remember buying them. I was nervous. I bought them from a Rack trusted seller, and I was nervous, because they were did not have TPA, and they were beautiful signatures with paint pen and everything. And I took them to Beckett and got them authenticated, and I can rest easy. So it's just an example of using that trust to buy from someone, and they're selling real stuff. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about was framing. You're not a big framer, right?
I was at a point. I've made some framing mistakes. I can definitely I can share a couple of quick stories about that. I had back, I don't even know when. I guess somewhere in the 2000s, I had a Chris Benoit original promo signed, and I put it in a nice little nice, is not the accurate word. I'm using the air quotes, but a nice Walmart frame for $5, thinking that's, why not? It's minimal. I always like the minimalist frames that don't take up that much space with like borders and all that. So I had it in there, thought what could go wrong. And then I found the frame in a box years later, and the different seasons and the moisture in the air and all that good stuff caused the photo to stick to the glass. And I got it off the glass, but I didn't get it all off the glass. And now I have a tattered Benoit promo in a binder somewhere that's missing half the signature. It makes me sick to even look at it. So you don't want things to stick to the glass. Then there's also plastic frames those used to be some of my favorites because they're so cheap and they're small. You put them together, it's nice. And the problem with those they're not acid free. And that's an important thing when it comes to framing anything. And I had an Ultimate Warrior autograph that I got myself that it was a blue Sharpie on a lab printed SummerSlam 91 poster. And it went from a rich, deep blue Sharpie to almost a transparent, it was fading because of that and whatever else. And at the peak of COVID, I took nice, honest photos of it. People could see what it looked like, but I unloaded it because it just bothered me. I knew what it used to look like. I didn't like how it looked now. I didn't know if it would get worse in the next years to come. And I just figured, let me sell it now while it's, still looks pretty good. I didn't get as much as I could have gotten for it once upon a time, but framing matters. You want things
it's really important.
Yeah.
So the way you get your items to not touch the glass is that you have to have matting so that there is a space between the item and the glass. The idea is the matting, you have it matted so that the item is behind the matting and the glass goes in front of it. You need UV resistant glass and acid free glass. You also need, this is very important. If you're getting a gift, you don't want to give someone a gift that's going to be ruined in a couple of years because of a crappy frame job.
Nope.
And a good frame job. Okay, this is important. If you're framing an 8x10 item, a good frame job is not going to be less than $100. Okay, so if you think you're gonna frame something on the cheap, you're not. You're better off getting a nice matting and then framing accordingly. Which really means if you're doing an 8x10, you're probably better off getting 11x14 mat, have it double or triple matted to cut it so that the 8x10 is well protected under the mat, and then get an 11x14 frame so that there's a good 1/4 inch between the item and the glass. That's how you protect an item permanently. And and then obviously even when you have stuff framed, storing it in direct sunlight creates problems and all that. But once you give the gift, that's not your problem, But if you do receive a nice gift and you want to frame it, don't cheap out on the frames. Everyone who has framed their autographs, everyone has a horror story, things they didn't know, things they didn't realize. Oh, I didn't realize it was touching the glass and that it would rip the whole front off. I had my own. I had Mick Foley back when I was in high school. Mick Foley did an autograph appearance in the late 90s, and I put them in these crappy frames that I got from Walmart or whatever, and it ripped. It just stuck and ripped the whole thing apart. And that's what happens. It's just what happens. So be aware that if you're gonna buy a nice gift, you got to buy a nice frame. Or instruct the person to buy a frame that has matting so the item is not touching the glass. And there are actually some really cool companies online. You can find them by searching the autograph groups. They do some really cool matting jobs where they'll do custom matting and they'll put so you can get, let's say you have an 8x10 of something, whatever. You can have the name of the movie foil etched into the matting and stuff, or having the matting color coordinated and stuff like that. They're artsy people. I am not one of them. Artsy people can do really cool stuff with matting to make the presentation look cool. I've seen some really cool stuff. I've seen some really cool presentations where people take signed index cards and by being creative with matting and with photos, turn them into really spectacular pieces.
Oh yeah, absolutely right.
So framing is something that if you're a creative person, knock yourself out and do something cool. If you're not, like me, local frame shops. I mean, I know you people always say, "Oh, go to Hobby Lobby or go to Michaels because they have the cheapest frame jobs." And sometimes you can get decent framing at Michaels or at Hobby Lobby. But in my experience, going to a local framer, especially if you're going to do a bulk job of multiple items, they can give you a better price and a better quality product than Michaels or Hobby Lobby can. So if you have a local framer, that to me, that's in my experience the best option. And always, you want to support a local business. I mean, obviously, if they're charging through the roof, that's a different story. But local businesses are more willing to be flexible and to customize and more or less not screw up. Whereas Michaels, I've seen, look, and I've had good experience with Michaels too, but I've also witnessed with my own eyes like untrained employees doing the framing, and it was like giving me a heart attack watching it happen, especially on very valuable pieces. There's nothing quite like bringing a $2,000 poster to have framed a certain way and watching some teenager at Michael's manhandling it. It's very stressful. So, if you go to a framer who has experience with art and they take this stuff more seriously, they handle it with care. That's just how it goes. So if you have a local framer that you can find, those are kind of the last bastion of the mom and pop shops, local framers, because they do handle, if you live in an area where people have a little money, especially the fine art and stuff like that, you still need local framers to take care of it.
Yep, you get what you pay for. That I think that might be the overarching theme of this episode.
Yep. So, any last final thoughts about gift giving? Have we? Do you have any ideas? Are you giving any autographs as gifts this year or no?
Absolutely not. Luckily, people I know and give gifts to don't really care about this type of thing, so I'm not. But just buy somewhere you can reasonably trust. If you're not knowledgeable on something, I mean, complete buyer beware. Try to find someone that is. Try to find a community of people that are, and that you could find someone to help you, or just find something trustworthy, like from Rack Trusted. Just be careful. Do your homework.
All right, sounds good. So if you like what you hear, please subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, or Apple Podcast. You can leave a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcast. You can leave a review on Apple Podcast. Of course, you can comment on as many YouTube videos as you want. We've been getting lots of comments and thumbs up and stuff. Whatever engagement matters. If you feel like engaging on the Facebook group, that's cool too. We love talking to people and hearing what they have to say. So what we have coming up for us next, I mean, Dana, I believe you're working on landing us an interview guest very soon.
Yeah, we will hopefully have an interview guest very, very soon. I'm going to reach out to them this morning and try to set that up. Hobby-wise, I mean, I know you are fully hibernating. I will be down. I will be making not one, but two visits today to the world-famous K&S Sportatorium.
Today, too?
Today, yes. In the morning, right after this, I'm racing down to see Tito Santana because I have the Hasbro. And then tonight, old Hillbilly's coming to town, Hillbilly Jim. So I got to go back this evening.
There's that, there's a really funny clip from Howard Stern where Richard Christie talks about his love for Hillbilly Jim, and it's just very funny. But anyway, Hillbilly hasn't been around in a minute, so that's kind of neat. Cool. I will not be partaking in any of this. I'm in full hibernation mode until probably March, and you were telling me that March is going to be a problem because there are two cons happening at the same time.
Big Event and Monster Mania Cherry Hill are now apparently the same weekend. So I know what I'll be planning, Monster Mania on Friday, but then all it takes is one of those like Alec Baldwin type Saturday only guests, and the plans are all screwed up.
A lot of these cons, they run the same weekends, and then you make the hardcores like us choose. It's a challenge.
I'll tell you what though, someone pointed out to me yesterday, and it's actually an interesting point. Monster Mania in March. March is the 20th anniversary of Saw. Saw came out around that. I think it was around that time of year. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any sort of a 20th anniversary reunion for Saw at any of these East Coast cons this year.
The funny thing is that weekend in March, I'm off the radar anyway. So we got to figure out what's happening there. We'll talk offline.
Yeah.
But that's it's funny that and I understand there's only so many weekends that are out there available that are not holiday weekends where these cons try and run, and as more and more cons are getting competitive and trying to find the best weekend to run, it's challenging.
Absolutely
so
right.
yeah. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook and leave as many comments as you want. We post all of the, well, Dana, you post all of the episodes as they air on the Facebook group, and people comment and leave questions and stuff like that. So please keep the conversation going. We had a lot of vibrant conversation about Monster Mania last week and Big Event last week. Lots of people who are angry about the new price up, the price gouging that's been going on, and
Yep.
it seems that as people talk about it, more and more people who realized who thought it was maybe a one-off thing or didn't realize how pervasive it was. It's starting to sink in that this is the new reality for us. So we'll have to keep our eye on where pricing is going at cons.
Yep,
So,
and I'll be honest, I think one of my favorite parts of doing these episodes is the idea that like we get these conversations going in the Facebook group, about what we're discussing. And honestly, it brings me back to Marked Out from like 15 years ago. Like it's lively conversation, a lot of voices, vendors, fans. It's really a great time. If you haven't already, join that group, take part in the conversation, because it's a very interactive conversation.
So yeah, we don't have any private signings coming up, but we do have a ton of inventory that is on Facebook. It'll be rotating through the group periodically. It's all on Marked Out Collectibles eBay account. We have a lot of stuff, a lot of cool stuff that is available for holiday gift giving. And so we hope that, in listening to us and enjoying what we've got, that perhaps you buy something and give it to maybe you have a huge Bull Nakano fan in the family that you want to give a signed print to, or maybe a Tom Atkins fan, right? Or maybe you're a fan of Romeo and Juliet, Olivia Hussey, and we have some great stuff from them also. And actually, we both still have some Tom Kenny stuff as well, right?
Oh yeah, SpongeBob lives on.
We have lots and lots of stuff that is available, and we hope to continue selling it through the holiday season. So with all that said, for Marked Out Collectibles, markedout.com, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
I'm Dana.
And we will see you next week for episode 21.